Morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with Softcat, AWS and CrowdStrike, where we're going to focus on, is your cloud security enough? Today we've got 4 speakers for you. So we've got Darren Sharp from AWS, AWS Marketplace Specialist, Zeki Chiredi speaking from CrowdStrike, a technology strategist for EMEA. And then we have 2 speakers from Softcat, Adam Louca, our Chief Technologist for Security, and Ant Hayes, our AWS Solutions Architect. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind everyone that you can submit questions at any time during the webinar using the Q&A tool on the console, and we'll take time to go through these at the end of the session. A recording of the webinar will be available to you later today. That will be emailed over to you. And if you have any questions following this, please speak with your Softcat account manager, or if you don't have an account manager, you can email us at marketing@softcat.com. I'm now going to pass you over to Adam, who's going to start the webinar.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Adam Louca. I'm Softcat's Chief Technologist for Security, and I'm delighted that you've all chosen to take your time out of your Tuesday morning to come and talk to us a little bit about cloud security. As I'm sure most of you are, you're on your journey towards deploying further cloud and adopting that changing operating model. When you're thinking about doing that, one of the key areas we see customers having challenges in is how do they appropriately secure their cloud, and how do they appropriately gain the visibility of those workloads they're trying to deploy up there. As most of you will be aware, cloud isn't just a single area and contains multiple different facets that require different security approaches and different security controls to adequately secure, but also provide visibility. On top of that, cloud isn't just a technology model. It is an operating model. Fundamentally, it changes how your business approaches deploying new services and assets into the environment. That operating model requires agility, flexibility, and collaboration, and often our security tools are left behind when looking at operating in this new way. We need our security tools to evolve to support this new way of working, and EDR and CrowdStrike are a key part of delivering that. We've been incredibly impressed at Softcat at the growth we've seen within CrowdStrike. It's been one of our fastest growing security vendors here at Softcat, as we're seeing lots of customers deploying and taking advantage of this new technology. On top of that, it's not just about the technology and it's not just about the operating model. It's also about how you consume and buy these services. And I'm delighted that we're joined by Darren today from the AWS Marketplace team to talk a little bit about how you can potentially change the way you procure this technology. It's something that customers don't always immediately think about when they're looking at their new cloud operating model, but it's something that becomes increasingly important as you want to take advantage of that flexible deployment methodology. I'm going to hand over for the first section to Anthony. So Anthony works in our solutions architecture team here at Softcat and with a focus on public cloud. And he's going to give us a little bit of a level set around why security is important in AWS, take us through hopefully what is a slide that most of you will be familiar with, which is the shared security model. And we'll just talk a little bit through why third-party security is important as part of that. Anthony, are you with us?
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
No worries. I'm just going to press go on the slide. Here we go.
Excellent. Okay. So the cloud necessitates changes in the way that we think about security. So cloud concepts such as infrastructure as code, immutable infrastructure, that's infrastructure that doesn't change over time but is replaced, auto-scaling, so dynamic resources that scale in and out based on demand, serverless, containers, managed services such as Amazon's relational database service, RDS, where there is no access to the underlying operating system, all change those traditional architecture designs, including security. So the diagram that you can see, hopefully, I hope everybody can see the diagram. Shows the AWS. Okay, excellent. It shows the AWS security shared responsibility model, which itself changes based on the services we consume. And this model is shown is for infrastructure as service or EC2, as we know, cloud VMs. So AWS is responsible for security of the cloud, which is the orange section at the bottom, and customers build on top of that, and they're responsible for securing everything they put into the cloud, which is the blue section. And this is one area where solutions such as CrowdStrike can really enhance the security posture of cloud workloads. So under that shared security model, shared responsibility model, AWS operates, manages, and controls the components from the host operating system and virtualization layer down to the physical security of the facilities in which those services operate. So it means that AWS is responsible for protecting the global infrastructure that runs all of the services offered in AWS, including the regions, availability zones, and edge locations. And this, in turn, changes how security is architected. For instance, you can't deploy perimeter firewall in the same way as you would on premises. The global infrastructure includes all of those facilities that we've talked about: network, hardware, operational software, host OS, and virtualization that support the provisioning and use of these resources. And customers retain control of what security they choose to implement to protect their own data, platforms, applications, identity and access management, and operating system for those workloads. And this is really where CrowdStrike fits in as a key tool in protecting those workloads. Thanks, Adam. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Anthony, it's really interesting you sort of highlight there's that delineation between what AWS looks after and what the customers looks after. In your experience, I think, do we find that it's always clear in customers' minds that about what their areas of responsibility is, and what are kind of maybe some of the key areas you might see customers overlook when they're looking to secure AWS?
So absolutely, it's quite often it's unclear to customers where their responsibilities start and end. Some customers believe firmly that, and incorrectly, that the cloud is perhaps insecure because of some of the press they've heard, such as the security around S3 buckets, for example, misconfigurations, which aren't really security issues; they're just misconfigurations. There's been a lot of sort of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the cloud because of that. But really, I mean, the key messaging is that there is that delineation and demarcation about what's Amazon's responsibility and what the customer's responsibility is. And then by deploying tools, we can really help customers secure their workloads properly.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Just a quick poll for everyone, so hopefully you can all see that. I was really interested to get some feedback from everyone that's on the call. Are you already using third-party security tools to complement the AWS tools that you're currently using today? Is it something you've already done? You're comfortable with that? You understand the value and where they sit? Or is it something that you're looking to do in the future? Or is it something that you're relatively comfortable that, actually AWS has got everything that you're going to need as part of your security control model? Hopefully that's calm now. You should have 3 radio buttons. So we're going to give just 30 seconds for people to quickly click on that. Before I'm going to hand over to Zeki. How are you anyway today, Zeki? You well?
I'm very well. It's nice and sunny here in London, so I can't complain. Well,
oh yeah, I was going to say,
I'll be able to get a few more days out.
Yeah, I was going to say you can take advantage of going more than just very close to your home at the moment. So that sounds like it'd be good fun. Okay, we're just going to move on and click through. So yeah, very interestingly, we've actually got 75% of the respondents actually already deploying, have deployed third-party AWS tools. So that's really good to see that I guess people are already comfortable with deploying that, and to me that shows a sort of a level of maturity around deploying and operating your cloud. Interestingly, sort of one person or one response coming back that actually they don't have any third-party AWS control. So that might be that the environment, is adequately secured by the inbuilt AWS controls, or maybe somebody who's looking to do that in the future. Zeki, so I'm just opening onto this slide. I mean, I guess interesting from CrowdStrike's perspective, cloud deployments for CrowdStrike, is that common? Is it something you're seeing a lot of? What does it look like from your side?
Yeah, massively. And I think one of the interesting pieces, if we kind of look into the events of the last several weeks, we are seeing huge amounts of organizations very, very rapidly moving to the likes of AWS, because they're realizing that if they need to suddenly scale up to a whole brand new data center, that's not going to happen with a physical location and physical hardware. But guess what? AWS provides that exact capability. So if you're hitting a huge amount of demand due to what we've seen in the last few weeks, there's only one way to go, and that is harnessing cloud platforms like AWS. At the same time, we saw huge rapid movement of working from home. So things like AWS's virtual desktop interfaces and systems were utilized by huge amounts of our customers to make sure every one of their employees could still have the exact same access, still same level of capability working from home, but most importantly, making sure it's all secure and a safe environment.
Amazing. So, and I guess that flexibility and that agility is kind of key, really. But I guess interestingly, when you look at quite a lot of traditional approaches from a security perspective, they're sized to do one thing, and they might, have so many licenses for it. So actually, there needs to be an evolution in that security environment to support that elastic, that more scalable infrastructure environment.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And that's something that we've had as part of our platform for many years, because we realize that we no longer have static systems. Yes, that's still a very, very big part of our organization, but we have to be elastic. We have to be very dynamic, because guess what? Our organization, our throughput, our demand is elastic as well, and so are the resources that we require to power our business. So for us, as a security organization, we understand that we have to be elastic as well, and we have to be worked around our customers' needs and modern way of thinking.
Yeah, and I guess you're quite lucky, really, as you're a company that came out of that incident response space. And forgive me if I've kind of oversimplified your growth, but actually that was your heartland. And actually, when you think about what an incident response service does, you don't get the privilege to come into an environment where you kind of got everything set up and you can kind of have 3 weeks to go and deploy your back-end configuration server. You need to be able to hit the ground running, get the stuff deployed very quickly, and get the value to the customer almost immediately. So I guess a lot of that methodology come into your products and kind of helps you now.
Well, actually, a lot of people don't realize that when we were building the platform in the background, we were offering instant response servers. We were actually building our cloud-delivered platform ourselves. So again, we manage our own cloud infrastructure, and what we're able to provide is a lot of the solutions we have built for ourselves, for our own infrastructure, to make sure we put it back to our customers. So we're not just telling organizations what to do. We've lived and breathed it ourselves, and that's really important. From a security perspective, we need to understand the actual problem to be able to solve those issues for our customers.
100%. So I guess. Maybe we could talk a little bit through what does the platform itself provide, Zeki?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm kind of moving on to the next slide. For those who are not too aware of CrowdStrike and who we are, we provide a number of capabilities, but most importantly, what we provide is a platform with a combination of technology, intelligence, and expertise. If we kind of group these all together, we're providing a number of different functionalities, from preventing and protecting our customers from nation-state attackers, commodity attacks like bits of ransomware, file attacks, and also ransomware. And that's our core job, is to make sure our customers do not suffer from a breach. But as well as that, we also offer a number of different modules to provide visibility, protection, but overall IT hygiene to organizations. Of course, most importantly, this is fully deployed and available into cloud and container environments, and most importantly, AWS environments. But as well as that, we also fully support your traditional environments, your laptops, your desktops, your traditional virtual infrastructure, and also mobile and IoT. So not only be able to provide excellent coverage, protection for your traditional environments, but also into your cloud environment through a single sensor, a single platform.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know, Zeki, you and I recorded a podcast, feels like a long time ago, pre-lockdown now, where we were talking about cyber espionage and actually the way that potentially nation-state backed attacks will kind of focus on exfiltrating data for research and development purposes to advance their internal markets. Guess kind of applying that conversation to this, I guess cloud is something that those attackers are going to be focusing on. Is there generally rich sources of data, would you say?
Yeah, exactly. And again, unfortunately, I think Anthony mentioned it briefly. A lot of these solutions have security with them, but not always enabled by default. And as we're kind of moving into these new environments very, very quickly, a simple configuration mismanagement could mean that an S3 bucket is wide open. So it's our job to make sure that you have visibility into that, you know about it, you have that coverage, you have that visibility, but also from the other side of the threat landscape, if someone is trying to run ransomware to take down your environment, or even if they've actually infiltrated your environment through another means, we know about it, we've alerted it, we've prevented it, but most importantly, you have the information to respond and then remediate, of course.
And that's kind of really important. I think that's something that I see a lot from my customers I speak to about cloud in particular is, I think there's not that there's less visibility. The visibility is just coming out in a different way. And I think a lot of the time customers don't know how to consume that and maybe how to get that same level of assurance that they might have with their on-premise assets or their on-premise virtual machines. So kind of having a platform that's going to allow you to have visibility into those threat feeds, into that sort of information that you can then perform, take action against and get that detailed detection information is really important.
Exactly, and I think it comes back to that kind of old age issue of data overload. We've got too many screens, too much data, and the biggest problem we have in security is taking the right information and correlating it with other contextual data, other signals of data from other parts of the business that actually provide that holistic view, which we need as security teams, we need as IT teams. And it's very, very much what we're doing with CrowdStrike. We have visibility into your laptop environments. We have visibility into whatever may be of your physical data centers. But then most importantly, as that new environment in the cloud is evolving, changing, and other teams are jumping into it, we have visibility into there. But most importantly, if we do have an incident, we're able to manage it. We're able to have that visibility. We're able to understand it not only in your cloud environment space, but also in your physical laptop, desktop environments as well. And that's quite important from an incident response perspective, because the quicker we have visibility, the quicker we understand the actual incident, guess what? The quicker we can actually respond and remediate it. And that's the key to incident response.
It's really interesting, Zaki. Thank you. Do you want to go on to the next slide? Are you sort of relatively happy on this one? Do you think there's any other bits is worth highlighting here?
No, so just moving along, what I want to do is kind of just jump into some of the further capabilities we've kind of building into the actual product itself. I've mentioned this a few times already, visibility being a key one of them, but also for us is we've developed the actual FALCON sensor to be uniquely positioned for Amazon Web Services. And what we mean by that is, having the actual sensor be able to be easy to deploy. It can be, it has full runtime protection, has the ability to automatically understand and see as containers are scaled in your environments, and be able to provide that information back. But of course, most importantly, being able to provide the detection, but also prevention remediation capabilities into that environment. So as it's fully scaling and new instances are evolving, we can see this, we can stop it, and also be able to remediate further actions if necessary. But as well as that, one of the key pieces, again, we spoke about quite a bit, is that visibility. We understand that for some organizations, they may have a few accounts with AWS. They may have 20 or 50, and in some cases hundreds, because they have a large internal development and technology part of their internal business. And for security, it's still very important to make sure they have visibility into every single one of those environments, be it production or a dev and test environment. So for us, it's about having that visibility, because guess what? If you have visibility, you can understand if there's been a bad configuration or there's bad hygiene. And with that visibility, we can actually jump in there and actually solve those issues and put those best practices. But it's also quite key
for organizations who are kind of more mature on that digital journey, kind of putting security where the developers are is going to be key to either making sure that you can provide better training or better guidance for people who might be pushing out insecure or misconfigured elements. But also we kind of need to bring those security elements into that CI/CD process to make sure it is integrated all the way through, rather than being it's an ops thing. It's a once we've finished building it, don't worry, we'll add the security on later. I think the Gartner buzz term is shift left, but for me, it's kind of it's an everywhere thing. It's not so much about being left; it's just about security being at every point of the process.
Yeah, of course. And then the most important thing, like everything with security, is we want to make sure we're providing that protection, but without causing any impact into the rest of the business. And again, security's always been that understood as being that burden, but it's not. We're there to protect the business, protect the organization, and make sure we can continue doing what we do. And with the technologies we've built in, it's about providing that capability. So if we do detect something bad, we step in and stop it from happening. But in the background, we're passively collecting this information that we can then use to make our DevSecOps process better and more refined. We make sure we're fully integrated with the continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines, because that's needed to make sure that security is embedded as part of that scaling motion we may be doing when we're under huge demand. So again, making sure security is part of the platform, but without causing any extra burden.
And I guess that's one of the really nice things about the CrowdStrike platform in particular is actually, if you don't want it to be so aggressive on a protective angle, actually you can use it as a collection mechanism and use much more of that threat hunting, the sort of manual human processes to know that actually you can run this more safely on your workloads without knowing it's going to just lock everything off because something unusual happened. If you've got an environment where downtime tolerance is incredibly low, then actually you may choose to allow anomalies to kind of continue to happen while having a human investigate that as part of your SOC processes, maybe.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And one of the things we built in the very early days was having that very, very customized capability when it comes to policy management. We understand that every bit of your environment works differently, and we have to be really granular when it comes to that. So yes, exactly. If you have critical systems that no downtime is allowed, we want to make sure that any type of suspicious event is notified. We can do that, but we're not going to do any prevention. But then also for the very, very sensitive parts of our organization where we need to make sure that we have the highest posture, highest preventive controls, we can do that as well. So fully customizable depending on the business needs.
Amazing. Really, really good.
And this kind of goes into kind of the next stage, especially when we talk about kind of continuous integration and continuous delivery, making sure that we are able to be fully integrated into that. So one of the things that we did when we took on this cloud journey and making sure that we could fully support our customers on that journey was making sure that our sensor capabilities were fully integrated with all different types of workloads and being able to fully secure containers. So again, it's very, very easy to be deployed. Again, as part of the CI/CD process, we can be deployed through APIs and pre-boot scripts automatically, again, allowing that seamless scalability. But most importantly, as those new containers start up, you've got that visibility, you've got that runtime protection occurring in the background.
And I guess that must be really key for the agent to be incredibly lightweight, because actually, one of the advantages that we want with those container environments is them to be small and nimble and ephemeral. So having something that isn't going to impact the workload itself and kind of really drag it down is going to be pretty key, I imagine.
Exactly. And the great way that actually the way our sensor works is, especially when it comes to kind of containers, is we can just deploy it once and then we get the full visibility into every other container without having to redeploy sensors. Again, that's one of the great advantages of utilizing the CrowdStrike FALCON platform.
So just Zeki, just expand on that point for a second, if you wouldn't mind, because I think that's really interesting. So are you saying you would deploy it once, and is that at a host level, or is that at the container itself, or individual?
At the host level, and again, because it's at the host level, we can see all the sub-containers and gain the same exact full visibility you need and expect from a security solution without having to deploy multiple different sensors at each container.
Yeah, so almost like the sort of old school sort of hypervisor level monitoring and of sort of a virtual machine basis, but really applied to that container environment. So that's going to really simplify your ability to do that and roll that out. So that's a really nice feature to have.
Yeah, and again, one big difference there is we're getting the full visibility, and previous technologies were restricted. So, for example, hypervisor technologies are restricted only being able to access certain types of data, whereas because we're sitting in the full host, we understanding every little bit of detail, again, which is really important from a security perspective, that's happening in each container, but then most importantly, be able to prevent and respond to any incidents happening within those containers.
Definitely. I guess I've got a quick question for the audience, a quick poll. Where are containers, I guess, in your plans? Is it something you've already actively deploying? Is it something you're looking at? Is it something you kind of don't see in your future? I mean, Zeki, maybe I'll kind of ask you from your perspective. Is it something you're seeing from CrowdStrike perspective?
Yeah, massively. A lot of organizations are, the majority, looking into moving into the space, if not already harnessing today.
Okay, 100%. And Anthony, I guess from the sort of Softcat view, is it something we're seeing more of, and do we have any sort of high-level things that are driving customers to do that?
It's simplification of infrastructure and simplification of deployment. But yeah, it's definitely a growing trend amongst customers to look at containers and to deploy on containers.
Yeah, and I guess supports that sort of multi-cloud potential journey in terms of being able to take workloads across multiple clouds agnostically.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see what's come back on the responses here. So, wow, 100%. So I could imagine it's our poor sample size, or you're all just container fanatics. We've actually managed to get onto the Kubernetes mailing list, obviously. So, but yeah, 100% people saying they're deploying them, but yeah, I think kind of very strong feedback there. There's something that the people need to do. So hopefully that piece was useful about the approach you might take to securing some of those. Zeki, just hand back to you.
What would be worthwhile was to just kind of fully explain some of the capabilities we've specifically created for our customers utilizing AWS. So to make things as easy as possible, we've even created dedicated bundles when it comes to our customers wanting to utilize CrowdStrike in AWS environments, but also the types of capability that we can provide. So as part of that bundle, we've taken our FALCON prevent capability. So this is where we're able to not only identify threats, but actually automatically prevent them, such as malware from actually triggering. Is fully available. We also have FALCON Insights. That is our endpoint detection and response capability, where not only are we able to identify suspicious events, we can investigate it, hunt across that information. But also, again, key part of this is responding, having the tools necessary to be able to complete our investigation, surgically remediate issues, and also kind of continue our forensic investigations. FALCON Discover, again, this is one of the modules that we've seen great successes, especially in cloud environments, because it provides that visibility. The ability to understand what's been running in each one of your AWS accounts, be able to identify if there's any workloads running that's not protected by CrowdStrike, but also kind of start digging deeper into kind of the policies, the configurations. And of course, by default, container security, so being able to identify those containers, provide that context, and of course, protection in those environments. And as you mentioned, Adam, Overwatch. Overwatch is a great success for our customers. This is our managed threat hunting service where trained experts are continuously monitoring, looking for suspicious incidents, hunting, investigating for our customers. The key thing for Overwatch is there to identify the highly sophisticated attacker trying to target your organization. And that's fully integrated into our AWS Work offerings. And of course, our threat graph capability, which is our overall cloud platform.
I guess if you were a customer who had, serious and critical workloads, business workloads that essentially run your business, and they're sitting up in AWS, actually knowing you've got the FALCON Overwatch team providing that 24/7 monitoring for really high level sophisticated attacks would give you a level of reassurance, at least that the trained experts who detect nation state level attacks are monitoring that environment.
Exactly, and the reality is, we're utilizing the data that we're seeing across our global infrastructure to provide that protection to our customers. So most organizations may deal with one instance a year, whereas we're dealing with multiple a day, and we provide that capability, that knowledge, that expertise to provide protection to our customers. And again, most importantly, if we do identify something, and the reality is we really hope we don't, but if we do, we're there to help you and kind of walk you through those steps.
Thanks, Zeki.
And I think one kind of key point as well is how we kind of deliver this. And, one of the points you mentioned in the beginning, we have to be, elastic, we have to be agile, and we have to be working ourselves into the way that these cloud environments work themselves. So not only do we have the ability to kind of do subscription annually, which is kind of expected from a SaaS platform, but we actually also have a pay-as-you-go consumption service. Again, this is great for those environments that suddenly scale massively, but not on a frequent basis. So rather than having to pay licensing for a year when you only use it for, say, 1 month out of that year, we actually offer a pay-as-you-go service, which is, again, great for those environments. And most importantly, it's a great partnership with Softcat and AWS, which we've been working together for quite some time in this field. So again, we are very, very excited about going further with this. And to kind of close it off, I think the kind of key areas we want to make sure everyone has takeaways from today's session, especially when it comes from the CrowdStrike perspective, is the 4 areas, the most important area when it comes to security. So providing that protection, be able to identify those attacks, be it nation state, commodity threats, or more the highly efficient criminal actor groups. Get visibility, because again, visibility is important. It's not just about stopping the threats, but making sure our overall organization has the best hygiene possible. And again, simplicity. We don't want to have to utilize multiple systems. We don't want to have data going to multiple points. Through a single cloud-level platform, we get visibility into the whole of your enterprise. And of course, lastly, automation. So being able to be part of that CI/CD automation pipeline, but also be able to automate a lot of the key elements with the data that we have within the actual platform itself.
Zeki, just a quick point as well, and probably put you on the spot a little bit, but APIs and integration, is it something, can customers build anything on top of it, or have you got sort of pretty defined things that you can do?
Yeah, it's probably quite default standard vendor response is, we're an API-first business, but we actually really truly are. So every single new feature and functionality we build, there's an API for it. And they're very granular, and they have huge amounts of control. So when we discussed it before, from a CI/CD perspective, you can fully deploy, fully provision new sensors and capabilities automatically through the likes of AWS or our APIs and integration. All of our response capabilities are all API driven. You can, if you really wanted to and you had the time, you could rebuild the whole user interface of our platform with the APIs, and we have access to our customers. So again, every single feature and functionality is able to be controlled through the API. So again, great flexibility depending on the organization.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I always laugh because I think you're right. It has become a bit of a default answer, but I do think there is a scale in terms of how well it's done. A lot of people will say, hey, we've got APIs, and if you go and have a look, it's not very well documented, or yeah, they've got a few APIs, but it's kind of what they wanted. I think to your point, if you can, if it's that API driven, that's literally you could rebuild the whole front end because it's all just making calls. That's the level of flexibility you've got available in the product. So thank you. And Zeki, I appreciate you taking your time this morning to kind of talk us through this. We're now just going to move into just, I guess, the last section. So as we spoke about at the beginning, one of the pieces that's changing as part of this is the requirement to buy and purchase this technology. And we're joined today by Darren, who's from AWS, who specifically looks at their marketplace offering. And we thought we'd just open quickly with a kind of a quick poll to see what people are doing around AWS. Have you purchased anything through the AWS marketplace? Just again to get some feedback. But Darren, from your perspective, how is it all going? I guess you're here, so it must be going relatively well. But what does it look like from, I guess, a macro level?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Adam. Going very fast, and we'll come on to some of the reasons why in a minute, but the integration of digital marketplaces and, very strong partners like yourselves that have got the advisory skills and the deployment skills is absolutely key to the way this world is moving. And Zeki and yourself have covered this in terms of elasticity. So the marketplace is about elasticity working with you guys. So, yeah, very pleased to be here.
Okay, so kind of, again, the feedback seems to be people on the call at the moment, not something that people have done, but planning to in the future. And I think that reflects a lot of organizations and maybe maybe driven by some of the changes that have come through it from the sort of initial when Marketplace first came out to some of its later evolutions, would you say, Darren?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, it is going very fast now, and I think as you guys have covered, this is a journey for lots of customers. So we can talk about how we can help with that now. With the integration of AWS Marketplace and Softcat services and technology partners like CrowdStrike in this one big partnership. Thanks, Adam, appreciate it. So let's look at where we are now, or where we think you are as customers. So on the left here, this is our analysis of a typical enterprise's software estates. Depending on your size, obviously this is going to vary. But typically the larger enterprises somewhere between 500 and 1,000 in their application portfolio. You've got a lot of in-house developed applications. And you have to excuse this slide. There's some very funny percentages on here. 90 to 40% is a slightly bizarre way of writing this. Well, I would typically say 70% commercial off-the-shelf paid software. The point we're trying to get to here is there's a large opportunity for rationalization of this software estate. And companies are not taking a workload or a task in isolation. They need to review their whole estate and work out what their cloud posture is going to be. And as you've covered, Adam and Zeki, you've covered as well, security has to be the day zero task when looking at what this migrated state may be and getting some agility from the cloud. So on the right-hand side, you've covered some of these architectures and technologies as to what this cloud deployed state may look like. We've got various different deployment methodologies there, and it's fair to say that CrowdStrike is obviously very much a cloud vendor, and at the forefront of one of our key security vendors or joint partnerships. There are lots of software vendors out there in the world, or indeed hardware vendors are becoming software vendors. And those vendors are looking at deploying in a SaaS methodology. So the point I'm trying to make is this is a migrating state for not just customers outside of the technology world, but certainly ISVs, independent software vendors, and anybody in the technology state.
It always really surprises me just how much tech there is out there. It is incredible. We run a commercial assessment essentially where we come and look at a customer security environment, and it's incredible when the amount of technology we see that's underutilized. Just real loads of it, loads of shelfware, for want of a better term, but also a lot of embedded tech that they don't take advantage of. So I kind of think, and you look at those numbers and you think, wow, like, even if you said you had 100 licensed apps, you just think about that being on a 36-month license term, you're renewing 3 technology vendors a month. Like, how are you getting any work done? You've got to be from the period you're doing going to market, let alone, do you know what I mean? It's so complex just to do that bit, let alone like squeeze the technology value.
Absolutely spot on. And I think here, this is where this partnership of AWS Marketplace and Softcat absolutely comes to the fore of providing value to customers, because when we look at what this tool set should be doing, and it should be seen as a tool set, it's there to help you migrate, modernize, and manage workloads in the cloud. So very, very good point, Adam. I'm with you. Let's just cover briefly about what Marketplace isn't, and where it is, and where CrowdStrike and Softcat particularly fit in this. So we're not about transacting the vendors of the big 5, as we would say. That's typically half of the market, $250 billion plus. So Microsoft, Oracle, etc. You as customers will have hopefully a licensing agreement with Softcat, but we don't transact the licensing, within AWS Marketplace. We do, however, host the workload in AWS. So just to be very clear on calling that out, we're very good at hosting the workloads of those vendors, but we don't transact the licensing. The interesting bit is this piece in the middle. So this is what we would call the Enterprise 50. So this is a flexible 50 based on you, the customer. And again, it's another anecdote really that we would say that typically if you look at your critical software vendors that are absolutely critical to your business, you're probably going to find about 30 to 50 that are crucial to you running the business, regardless of where you're hosting a particular workload, and they're going to be in different categories. So obviously we would expect that CrowdStrike will be in that for many customers. But interestingly, opportunity here, and kind of an assessment as to how everybody seems to be looking at this. What we find is that customers are typically auditioning 2 to 3 vendors in each category to see what their posture is in the cloud. So in security, if you're an on-premise favorite of a particular vendor, you might be looking at other vendors to see where they are in their maturity. And that's obviously something that Softcat can help with, and marketplaces, the catalog, can also assist with as well. You then have this long tail of vendors underneath which is about search and selection. And these are the up-and-coming software vendors that don't have a traditional route to market. Zeki covered it brilliantly about the way people are consuming. So not only are buying modalities changing within customers, and deployment is moving out of centralized IT functions, procurement functions in some cases, but also, customers want elasticity from their vendor solutions. They don't want to be buying something necessarily or committing to something if it's not going to be used. ISVs of this world, the independent software vendors, also don't want to be building these elastic metering and billing solutions to help customers consume in the way they're consuming their cloud infrastructure. So this is what marketplace is about. This is why CrowdStrike are, an absolute top vendor within the marketplace, and lots of up-and-coming smaller ones underneath are benefiting from the digital marketplace, and how you, Softcat, the partner, is also accelerating this journey for customers to the cloud.
It's almost amazing kind of seeing that agile piece go all the way through even into procurement, kind of started with the developer community, now into IT. And actually, if anything, we're seeing agile procurement methodologies, buying what you need when you need it for the right fit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Scale up and scale down, and it's about driving cost. It's about helping with that migration if it's the right thing to migrate, obviously with some services from the partners like yourselves around as well. But it's about, doing this in an agile and innovative way. So, it begs the question, doesn't it? A digital marketplace and a partner, why is that working? Well, it's absolutely the way it should work. A marketplace can be there for some of the simple consumption stuff, as we might say, some of that, I need access to this quickly. I want to try something. I want to test something. And you can see from the numbers on screen here that I won't necessarily read out, but it's huge. This has been around for 9 years now. 7,000 plus individual listings. This is very easily categorized by, by work stream or by line of business. 1,600 plus ISVs. It's in all the AWS regions. This is becoming a really powerful single pane of glass for people to manage their software lifecycle and software asset management. And we'll come on to say
one thing you guys should be good at. It's got to be building a marketplace, isn't it? You've got to be pretty cool to what you guys know how to do.
I couldn't possibly comment, Adam, but you make a very valid point. Thank you. So let's drill in. I'd encourage everybody to go and have a look. Go and have a look at aws.amazon.com/marketplace. And the URL will be available at the end. But you can search for it quite simply. If you've got an AWS account, you can go and have a look. But here you can see, we've looked at what CrowdStrike looks like in the catalog. So that's first search page. We can search by technology. This should be getting access to software quickly and simply and easily. And if we drill down, you can see we've got a subscription option there. So depending on what the deployment methodology is, you click that button, you're either going to deploy a machine image, or you're going to get access to a SaaS entitlement, or whatever that deployment methodology may be. So I'm trying to emphasize some of the agility here. And I draw your attention to sort of the bottom line on this slide about how we deploy. Again, Zeki and Adam, you've covered some of these as to what's relevant, and these are at various different stages for for customers as to how their architecture is building out. I don't think anybody's necessarily got this pure mature state. So the point is we're supporting all these different deployment methodologies, and as we've covered, this top section here, marketplace is not just about paid stuff; it's about free stuff as well. And the theme of security, this is a curated catalog of software solutions that are built for the AWS environment, and a single pane of glass for management. So, deploy operating systems like AWS, this is a curated image that you can deploy within your AWS architecture. We will do the scale up and scale down, and at the first stage of kind of deploying software within your AWS architecture, we'd support bring your own license. So you'd procure something from a traditional route to market, and then you just deploy within AWS Marketplace. That's giving you deployment transformation, because we've got the image, the curated image. We allow you to deploy it. You bought the license somewhere else, or you already own it. You're not necessarily seeing the procurement transformation. as customers here. So, there's some tools within Marketplace that will help you go fast, remove some of the legal dentistry, for want of a better word, help you get access to this stuff quickly, contract quickly, and get the benefits of Softcat's buying power and technical expertise within this whole ecosystem. And that's top right here, that's seller private offers, or the actual term that we're going to talk about with Softcat specifically is consulting partner private offers, with you as a consulting partner. So let's just look at what this looks like. You can see some value here as well. I'm trying to enforce the value chain on the left-hand side, the value for the ISV, in that this is all about speed. It's about a single pane of view to see what this deployed customer world looks like. This is driving cost out of that supply chain. For the customers on this call here, again, these values are absolutely still very key. You're able to use the marketplace to get the bits and pieces that you need just through the digital marketplace. We're able to use the program at the bottom, of which Softcat are absolutely top of this market in, consulting partner private offers, to manage this enterprise contract spend. So this is not only using Marketplace to, manage the bits and pieces, to try and test and find and deploy quickly. It's actually managing your enterprise contract spend, particularly for our top vendors like CrowdStrike, that are absolutely, seeing greater, customer stickiness, with partners like yourselves that are contracting in this way. We're able to use this mechanism to add enterprise contracting value to the customers. And that's using the two analogies that our VP likes to use on the right-hand side, the two car manufacturers that I won't necessarily read out here, but in terms of those that are going fast and want to access this quickly, or indeed those that want some governance and guardrails, those that do want to make sure they're deploying software in a very controlled manner. So I'm just going to cover briefly a bit about the program, and then we'll touch on a couple of tools, and then we'll hand back, Adam. So, consulting partner private offers, or CPPO, is what Softcat are enrolled in, absolutely in partnership with CrowdStrike. You, Softcat's customers, can go and ask your account manager or the Softcat AWS team or CrowdStrike to deliver a private offer, and we can literally deliver that into your account, within a matter of hours for you to be able to consume this software. So, super fast, super agile, the benefits of Softcat's expertise, in architecting these solutions and deploying them, and Softcat's buying power and the speed and agility of the digital marketplace. So it's a really powerful program. And just briefly to touch on a couple of the tools that are inherent here, and we won't do them all today because it's a very big tool set essentially, but Softcat are working with within AWS Marketplace to deploy things like private marketplace. It's a function of the product that you can go and log into. Remember me talking a moment ago about buying modalities changing, as in different departments deploying services just to get the job done. So IT moving out of that centralized function. Private marketplace is there to help put some governance and guardrails around that world. So from you can set this up. I can very little account. You can set deployment guides as to by volume or technology as to who can deploy what within the architecture.
And this is amazing for me. I think this is so key, isn't it? Especially for as security becomes more of a service provider to the business in terms of to the developer community, giving them that choose your own adventure, as a service view of, hey, if you want an endpoint, an EDR solution, bang, here's the one we were signed up to using. If you want a cloud monitoring service, here's what we're using. If you want something to do data aggregation or whatever it might be, but that you've managed to retain that overall governance layer that you need to kind of have that good overall business governance, so you don't have 12 tools, but also you've still retained the flexibility of that agile, I need to go and build my app and go and get this thing to market quickly. So it's so key, that piece.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And where you're able to offer those advisory services as to what should go where, again, that's the absolute value of the partner, coming together in this world. And lastly, and this is one that I love, these two flavors of this, either enterprise contract or standard contract. We don't need to go into the nuances now, but essentially, pre-agreed set of end-user license agreements. We've gone to a group of ISVs. This is only available through Marketplace, and Softcat can track this absolutely for your customer base. a pre-agreed set of end-user licenses, which you as a legal department and your customers will only have to work with us to redline once, and Softcat can manage this process for you. The point is, once you've done this, once you, the customer, has done this, this is non-committed. You don't commit to buying anything here. You merely get our legal to bump together. Once you've done that, you can apply that EULA to, I think it's 80 plus, etc. That number is targeted to grow into the hundreds of ISVs, that we don't have to go through that every time we go through this enterprise procurement cycle. So again, we're trying to shorten and simplify that procurement process and offer some procurement transformation in partnership with absolute key vendors like CrowdStrike, and of course, Adam, you and your sales team and your technical expertise driving this out into the market. So yeah, it's a fantastic joint.
So key, isn't it? How often do you get, from a customer perspective, really far into that cycle? You know the tech you want, it's at the right price, and all of a sudden it has to go back for legals, and you wait 6 weeks to kind of get something redlined through legal backwards and forwards. So yeah, again, such a big transformation, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a brief overview. Keen to help support the Softcat team and CrowdStrike team with you and the customers, helping try this world. So please do speak to Softcat about how we can help here. And thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you about Marketplace.
No worries. Thank you, Darren. I really appreciate that. Just a kind of, I guess, a final piece for me just to wrap up, and I hope it's been useful this morning. We really wanted to show you how all of this story comes together from the sort of technology challenge, from that security perspective, right the way through to technology that's really born in the cloud or designed for these platforms really specifically to fix those problems, and then finally how you can procure it in the right way using the right methodologies with the right transactional vehicles. That means that actually this all fits cloud. It's not being retrofitted to cloud. This is all being designed to be consumed in that correct way. It is intrinsically correct. The last piece I just wanted to highlight was Softcat, we've really invested in our services offerings, both in AWS and broader, and some pieces to highlight here for you, depending on where you are on your cloud journey. We provide a number of different services, assessment services to look at where cloud workloads should be delivered and what the right architecture is, all the way through to, if you're already got workloads running today, actually coming and looking at things like well-architected reviews, so reviewing how well those systems are deployed against best practice. We've mentioned a little bit about the marketplace provider, but actually centralizing billing and optimization of that cost, ensuring that your workloads are running of the right size, but also that your billing's being managed appropriately. Alongside that, we also provide architecture support as well. So you've met Anthony today on this call, and Anthony works in that part of our business. So AWS services are very much key to the future of Softcat, and is something that we're heavily investing in. And the last couple that I'll mention to you that's kind of close to my heart in the cybersecurity space is we provide a breach simulation breach simulation service, and what that essentially does is it's kind of a bit of a put your money where your mouth is service. So what we're able to do is, using a piece of technology, we can actually simulate 6,500 different real world cyber attacks that would run on the endpoint. So if you've got a piece of technology in today you're using, maybe you're looking at CrowdStrike as part of a replacement process, and you go, well, I don't really know how well my stuff's working. We can run that on your environment, and we can actually tell you, not based on anecdotes or based on this and that we've seen across our customers, but really in your world, how many of those attacks were successful. And what we're doing there is we're simulating both real-world malware, so actually real samples from real attacks that are being seen all the time, but also replicating techniques that are normal techniques, but with new types of malware, so stuff that hasn't been seen before. So that we can get a real accurate view of how effective your controls are today, and that's something that we offer as a paid-for service. And for anyone who's interested on this call, we're going to offer a POC, so a free cut-down version of that, available to anyone who's attended this. So if that's something that you think's of interest to you, please get in contact with your Softcat account manager, and we'll happily set that up for you. Not a problem at all. Zeki, I know we've also got access, you've kindly given access to some free trials as well, and I think there's a link, if people can see on their side, there should be a resources button. There's a link out there that you can sign up to gain access to the CrowdStrike platform and try it out in your environment. Yeah,
exactly. So if anyone who would like to get a 15-day free trial of FALCON Prevent, It doesn't take too long. Just click on the link in the resources section and give a little bit of details, and you'll be up and running in a matter of minutes.
Yeah. And I guess, customers who want to get that out, roll that out, use that in a POC, and would happily fire some attacks against it and show you sort of the alarms and kind of create some noise in that environment, so you can actually have a look at how the FALCON product will detect those and the elements the alerts and information you would get. So always really happy to help and support our customers when they're looking at new technologies, properly evaluate that. So the last piece for me is, I guess, to firstly thank our speakers this morning. So thank you, Anthony, Zeki, and Darren, for giving up your time. As always, I love spending time kind of chatting to everyone about this, because I think it's really exciting. And I guess finally, and most importantly, to thank you, the customers, for taking time out of your morning to listen to what we've got to say. And I hope it's been useful for you. So we've got a little bit of time left for Q&A. If anyone has got any specific questions, we'll sort of keep the call going for the next 5 minutes. But other than that, thank you very much for your time this morning. Let's see if we're getting any questions coming through. Otherwise, I might just have to ask you questions, Zeki. I'll just make some questions up. What's the first dish you're looking forward to eating when you get out of lockdown, Zeki?
I don't know, actually. Been doing a lot of cooking, so I don't think I'll be allowed to go eating out for quite some time. I need to lose some of the extra weight I put on.
That's it. I have found that. Have you? I guess you said you were in London, weren't you? So you've probably got a half decent range of delivery options at the moment.
We do, but it's too easy. So we have been making sure we've been cooking as much fresh food as possible and trying to stay healthy. But then it also gives me an excuse to go cooking a bit over the top. So it's been good fun.
Very good. What about yourself, Darren? Have you got a meal you're looking forward to post lockdown?
I think my first meal will have to be a pint, Adam, won't it?
That's it. If it's a Guinness, it counts.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, let's go for that. Definitely. That suits me just nicely.
So we've got a first question in. This has come through. So I guess a broad question, and maybe Anthony, I'll ask you for your opinion on this one, and maybe Zeki for a follow-up. Customers asking for actually what would they do around DLP in AWS. So specifically looking at semantic DLP in AWS. Is that something that you would see? How would you kind of approach that, Anthony? What's your thoughts?
So I mean, to answer it with a pretty straight bat, I'd probably just go straight to Marketplace and look for DLP products.
Yeah.
That's the because once you deploy from Marketplace, you've got confidence it's going to work with AWS. So that's where I would start.
Okay, Zeki, one of the things we didn't really touch on in any detail was DLP functions. Is that something that CrowdStrike provides, or is an area that you'd see a third-party vendor working together with?
Yeah, so give you kind of clarity. We don't really do DLP, but we do have a number of functionalities that may be expected into a DLP technology, such as the kind of restrictions of third-party peripheral devices, but also the tracking of movement of data. The reality is I'd kind of refer the question back to kind of understand what type of environment you're expecting to be deploying in AWS, because guess what? Traditional DLP technologies may not actually fit every single situation. Again, it really depends on what type of environment you're looking to deploy into. And again, one of the great things that we find from our customers is being able to use the EDR data to actually know and understand how data is moving across your physical traditional endpoint landscape to your kind of cloud environment.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the not unintended side effects, but definitely a side effect of EDR is the amount of visibility you get across other things you didn't really know you wanted visibility for at the time, or at least that wasn't the use case that you potentially put the tool in for. I always think the great example of that comes to my mind is always vulnerability management. You often never think about your EDR tool for that, but all of a sudden it can return that information. And I know you guys have built a product specifically around that, but sort of in the early days of EDR, it was almost an unintended consequence, really.
Exactly. It's about, we've already got the data that rather than collecting again, let's just process the data we already have with other information to provide more value to the end user.
Yeah. So probably not the most comprehensive answer to that question, because it's probably a giant. The answer is probably a little bit longer than we've got time for, but I think definitely something we'd happily have a further conversation with you. But I think in summary, it's down to the use case. It's down to what you're looking to protect against and the workload it's running on. But actually, if you want a good place to start, having a look in AWS marketplaces is not a bad place to have a look at some of the technology that's already listed in there. Okay, we haven't received any further questions, so I'll just wrap the call up there. Just a final thank you very much from my side, and I hope it's been useful. If you'd like to share this with everyone else, as we said, we'll put out a version of this that's gone out. Sorry, the recorded version of this will go out later today. But thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.